the world tilted. And I was no longer Ethan Carter, overworked barista in Seattle, but Lord Elias Hawthorne, the cold-hearted husband of the villain in a novel I'd skimmed on my lunch break. My new reality was a gilded cage marble halls, chandeliers, and a husband who was supposed to hate me. But Cale Blackwood, the brooding antagonist of Starlit Bonds, wasn't following the script, and his piercing gaze made my heart race in ways the pages never described. I woke to silk sheets and the scent of lavender, my body heavy with the weight of Elias's memories. The novel's plot was clear. Elias, a manipulative noble, was destined to betray Cale, driving him to villainy. Cale, with his sharp jawline and storm-gray eyes, was meant to despise me, plotting my downfall while secretly pining for the novel's hero, Julian Rivers. But as I stumbled into the dining hall, still dizzy from transmigration, Cale's eyes locked onto mine, not with hatred, but with something softer, something dangerous. "You're late," he said, voice low, leaning back in his chair. The room was a masterpiece of opulence, all gold-trimmed walls and crystal goblets. But Cale's presence dominated. His black hair fell messily over his forehead, and his tailored suit hugged his frame like it was made for sin. "Care to explain, Elias?" I froze, gripping the edge of the table. The script said he'd ignore me, not challenge me, with a smirk that felt like a dare. "I overslept," I stammered, my Seattle accent slipping through. Cale's brow arched, and the servants exchanged glances. Elias was supposed to be poised, cruel. I was already screwing this up. "Interesting," Cale murmured, standing and circling me like a predator. "You seem different today." His voice was velvet, but his eyes searched mine, as if he could see Ethan behind Elias's polished exterior. My pulse hammered. This wasn't the Cale I'd read about, distant, vengeful. This Cale was alive, unpredictable, and far too close. The day unraveled in a blur of aristocratic duties. I fumbled through meetings with advisors, my mind racing to recall the novel's plot. Elias was a puppet master, orchestrating scandals to ruin Julian, the golden-haired heir to a rival family. Cale, meanwhile, was supposed to be spiraling into darkness, his heart torn between ambition and forbidden love for Julian. But as we walked the estate's gardens that evening, Cale's hand brushed mine, and I felt a jolt that wasn't in the script. "You're not yourself," he said, stopping beneath a willow tree. The Seattle skyline was gone, replaced by rolling hills and a starlit sky. "What's changed, Elias?" I swallowed, my mouth dry. Maybe I'm just tired of the games. It was a gamble, but Ethan Carter was no schemer. I wanted out of this role, out of this doomed marriage. Cale's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Then stop playing them," he said, stepping closer. His breath was warm, his gaze intense. "Or are you afraid of what happens when you're honest?" My heart stuttered. This was wrong. Cale was supposed to be cold, not whatever this was. I turned away, the novel's warnings echoing. Elias's betrayal would push Cale to destroy everything. But what if I didn't betray him? Could I rewrite the story? The next morning, Julian Rivers arrived, all charm and sunlight, his blue eyes sparkling as he greeted Cale. The script demanded Cale's attention shift to him, but Cale barely glanced his way. Instead, he watched me, his expression unreadable. Julian's smile faltered, and I felt the story's threads unraveling. I was the villain's husband, not the hero. So why did Cale's eyes follow me like I was the only one in the room? Days passed, and I tried to play Elias's part, scheming, distant, but every interaction with Cale felt like stepping off a cliff. He'd catch me in quiet moments, asking questions the novel never prepared me for. "Why do you avoid me?" he'd say. Or, What are you hiding? Elias. His voice was a blade, cutting through my defenses. I wanted to tell him the truth. I wasn't Elias. I wasn't supposed to be here, but fear stopped me. What if he thought I was insane? What if the story forced us back to its tragic path? One night, as rain lashed the estate's windows, Cale cornered me in the library. Enough, he said, slamming a book shut. You're not him. You're not Elias. My blood ran cold. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Who are you? Really? I opened my mouth, but no words came. The novel's weight pressed down Elias's betrayal, Cale's descent, my inevitable death. But Cale's hand grazed my cheek. And for a moment, the script didn't matter. I don't care who you were, he whispered. I want to know who you are now. My knees buckled. This wasn't the villain I'd read about. This was Cale, real and raw, rewriting our fate with every word. But the story wasn't done with us. And Julian's arrival had only begun to stir the storm. Julian Rivers was everything the novel promised: charismatic, kind, the perfect foil to Cale's darkness. He swept into our lives like a summer breeze, hosting galas and winning over the estate's staff with effortless charm. The script demanded Cale fall for him, their forbidden romance the heart of starlit bonds. But Cale's eyes stayed on me, and I was drowning in the tension of a story I couldn't control. I tried to keep my distance, hiding in Elias's study to avoid Julian's orbit. The room was a sanctuary of dark wood and leather-bound books. But Cale found me there, as he always did. You're avoiding him, he said, leaning against the doorframe. His voice was casual, but his gaze was sharp, cutting through the lie I was living. He's overwhelming, I said, flipping through a ledger to hide my nerves. It wasn't a lie. Julian's presence made me feel like an imposter, a glitch in the narrative. Every smile he aimed at Cale was a reminder of the love story I was supposed to sabotage. Cale crossed the room, his boots silent on the rug. And here I thought you were the one who thrived on attention. He tilted his head, studying me. You're not acting like Elias. You never have. My heart pounded. Maybe I'm changing, I said, meeting his gaze. It was a risk, but Ethan Carter was bleeding through honest, clumsy, desperate to be seen. Cale's lips parted, but before he could respond, Julian burst in, all golden hair and easy laughter. Cale, you're missing the fun, Julian said, clapping him on the shoulder. The guests are asking for you. His eyes flicked to me, cool and assessing. The novel described Julian as pure, but I saw calculation in that glance. He knew Elias was a threat, even if I wasn't playing the part. Cale didn't move, his shoulder tense under Julian's hand. I'm busy, he said, his tone flat. Julian's smile tightened, and I felt the story's gears grinding, trying to pull Cale toward his destined hero. But Cale stepped closer to me, his arm brushing mine. Elias and I have matters to discuss. Julian left, but the air crackled with his departure. I turned to Cale, my voice barely a whisper. You're supposed to be with him. The words slipped out, raw and reckless. Cale's eyes darkened, and he grabbed my wrist, pulling me close. Supposed to, he echoed, his breath warm against my skin. I don't follow scripts, Elias, or whoever you are. His fingers tightened, not painful but firm, grounding me in a world that felt like it was spinning apart. I wanted to confess everything Transmigration, the novel, the doomed ending, but fear choked me. Instead, I pulled away, muttering about duties. Cale let me go, but his gaze lingered, a promise and a warning. The next week was a whirlwind of plot points. Julian hosted a masquerade ball, a key scene where Cale was supposed to confess his feelings. I watched from the sidelines, my mask a flimsy shield against the chaos in my chest. Cale danced with Julian, their movements graceful, but his eyes kept finding me in the crowd. When the music slowed, he broke away, crossing the ballroom to pull me onto the floor. "What are you doing?" I hissed, my hands trembling in his. The script was screaming for him to choose Julian, not me. "Dancing," he said, his smirk defiant. "Unless you'd rather I stop." His hand settled on my waist, and the room blurred. The novel didn't matter. The crowd didn't matter. Only Cale, his touch burning through my defenses, rewriting every line I thought I knew. But the story fought back. Julian's allies, nobles loyal to his family, began whispering about Elias's treachery. They didn't know I wasn't him, but their accusations were close enough to the truth. I'd overheard plans to expose Elias at the ball's end, a trap to ruin me and push Cale toward Julian. I slipped away, heart racing, to the rooftop where the rain hid my panic. Cale found me, of course. "Running again?" he asked, his voice soft but edged with frustration. Rain plastered his hair to his face, making him look raw. "Human, what are you so afraid of?" "You," I admitted, the word breaking free. "This. Us. It's not supposed to happen." My voice cracked, and I hated how vulnerable I sounded. Cale stepped closer, undeterred by the storm. "Then tell me what is supposed to happen," he said, his hand cupping my face. "Because I'm done guessing." I opened my mouth, ready to spill the truth, when shouts echoed from below. Julian's allies had found us, their accusations ringing through the night. The script was closing in, and I was running out of time to change it. The rooftop was a battlefield, rain blurring the line between truth and fiction. Julian's allies, led by a sharp-tongued noble named Clara, stormed toward us, their voices dripping with righteous fury. "Elias Hawthorne, you've been plotting against the Rivers family," Clara declared, brandishing a forged letter in Elias's handwriting. The novel's plot was relentless, framing me as the villain before I could rewrite a single line. Cale stepped in front of me, his frame a shield against the accusations. "Enough," he snapped, his voice cutting through the storm. "You have no proof." His loyalty stunned me. Cale was supposed to side with Julian, not defend Elias. But his hand found mine, squeezing tightly, and I realized he wasn't protecting Elias. He was protecting me. Clara faltered, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. "The letter speaks for itself," she said, tossing it at Cale's feet. The paper was soaked, but the words were damning. Plans to sabotage Julian's trade deals, signed with Elias's flourish. I hadn't written it, but the story didn't care. It wanted me to fall. Cale didn't even glance at the letter. If Elias wanted to destroy someone, he wouldn't need a letter to do it, he said, his voice laced with dark amusement. The crowd murmured, uncertain. Cale's reputation as a villain gave his words weight, and for the first time, I saw the power of his defiance. He wasn't just breaking the script, he was rewriting it with me. But Julian stepped forward, his face a mask of betrayal. "Cale, how can you defend him?" he asked, his voice trembling with rehearsed pain. The novel was in his veins, pulling him toward his role as the wounded hero. "He's tearing us apart." Cale's grip on my hand tightened. "You don't get to decide who I choose," he said, his words a blade aimed at Julian's heart. The crowd gasped, and I felt the story fracture. This was the moment Cale was supposed to confess his love for Julian, not reject him. Julian's eyes widened, and for a moment, I saw the real him hurt. Human, caught in a narrative he didn't understand. The night ended in chaos, the accusations unresolved. Cale dragged me back to the estate, his silence heavier than the rain. In our chambers, He rounded on me, his eyes blazing. Tell me the truth, he demanded. No more games. Who are you? I broke. I'm not Elias, I said, my voice raw. I'm Ethan Carter. I came from another world. Dropped into this one. I know how this story ends. Kale. And it's not good for either of us. He stared, his expression unreadable. I braced for disbelief, for anger. But he laughed a low, bitter sound. Another world, he said, running a hand through his wet hair. And here I thought you were just a terrible liar. You believe me? I asked, stunned. I believe you're not him, Kale said, stepping closer. Elias was cold, calculated. You're messy, real. His fingers brushed my jaw, and my breath caught. And I don't care where you came from. I care that you're here. My heart ached. This was dangerous, defying the story's pull. But I couldn't stop. If we keep this up, the story will fight back. I warned. It wants you with Julian. It wants me dead. Then we fight, Kale said, his voice fierce. I'm not losing you to some damn script. The next days were a tightrope. Julian's allies pressed their case, spreading rumors of Elias's treachery. I tried to counter them, digging through Elias's records to find the truth. But the novel's influence was everywhere: forged documents, bribed servants, traps I hadn't seen coming. Kale stayed by my side, his presence a lifeline. But his defiance made him a target too. Whispers called him a traitor, a villain corrupted by love. One evening, in a quiet moment by the fireplace, Kale took my hand. If this story wants us apart, he said, his voice soft, then we'll write a new one. Together. His lips brushed mine, tentative at first, then desperate, as if he could anchor us against the narrative's tide. I kissed him back, my fear melting into something warmer, something worth fighting for. But the story wasn't done. At a council meeting, Julian revealed a new plot twist, evidence that Elias had poisoned his father years ago. The room erupted, and Kale's face paled. The novel was pulling out all the stops, and I was running out of ways to fight it. The council chamber was a crucible. Every eye on me as Julian laid out his final blow. The evidence was airtight, a vial of poison, hidden in Elias's study, matched the toxins found in his father's autopsy. The novel had crafted a perfect trap, and I was its prey. But Kale stood beside me, his hand steady on my shoulder, and I realized this wasn't just my fight anymore. I didn't do this, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. Elias might have, but I'm not him. The truth was reckless, but I was done hiding. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Julian's eyes narrowed, sensing his victory slipping. Kale stepped forward, his presence commanding. You're quick to condemn, he said to Julian, his voice low and dangerous. But where's your proof this vial was his? Anyone could have planted it. His words sparked doubt, and I saw Clara shift uncomfortably. The story was strong, but Kale's will was stronger. Julian's composure cracked. You're blind, Kale, he said, his voice raw. He's using you, twisting you away from who you're meant to be. The novel's script was in his words, but so was his pain. Julian wasn't just the hero, was a man caught in a role he couldn't escape. That night, Kale and I pored over Elias's journals, searching for a way to clear my name. Buried in cryptic notes, we found the truth. Elias hadn't acted alone. Clara had supplied the poison, a secret ally in his schemes. The novel hadn't mentioned her, but Kale's defiance had forced its hand, revealing cracks in its design. We confronted Clara at dawn, her face paling as Kale read her own letters aloud, proof of her betrayal. The council reconvened, and her confession unraveled Julian's case. But the victory was bittersweet. Julian's eyes met mine. Not with anger, but with resignation. I thought I was saving him. He said quietly, before leaving the estate. The story's grip loosened. But it wasn't over. Cale and I stood on the rooftop again. The city skyline glittering below. You could have chosen him, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The story wanted you to. Cale's hand found mine, his grip firm. I don't want a story, he said. I want you. His kiss was fierce, a promise sealed against the stars. I felt the novel's thread snap, its power fading as we claimed our own ending. Months later, we left the estate, starting fresh in a small Seattle apartment city. My world, somehow woven into this one. Cale adapted, his sharp edges softening as he learned to love coffee shops and rainy walks. The novel's shadow lingered, but we were no longer its puppets. We were Ethan and Cale, two men who'd fought fate and won. Our story wasn't perfect. There were arguments, doubts, moments when the world felt too heavy. But every night, Cale's arms around me reminded me why we'd fought. Love wasn't just romance, it was defiance. Choice. The courage to rewrite what was written. And as we stood together, watching the city lights, I knew we'd keep writing our own story, one page at a time.